So with transfer paper, the darker side will go down onto your painting, and then we're going to put our pear as far over here on the side where we could see what's going on. And then I'm gonna put a finger down and I could peek and see where it's at so that you kind of know where it is. I can see here that it's on the table. It's not floating up above the table. If the pear was floating up above the table, it wouldn't look right. So I wanna line it up where I wanna have it, put my finger down, peek, and then I'm going to take a pin, and with quite a bit of pressure, I'm going to press and go over it a couple times, 2 or 3 times on every line. And I'm just going to trace the outside of this pear like this. You can do this with your drawings as well. So if you had an original drawing that you're wanting to transfer onto your painting and you don't want to draw directly onto the canvas, you can first draw it onto paper, and then you can use transfer paper to transfer it onto the painting. This helps out a lot, especially when you have a background like this and you don't want to mess up the background by drawing on top of it. You can first draw on paper and then transfer it to the canvas. I'm going to take my paintbrush. It has a leave-in soap that is left it to help it shape back up. So I'm going to wash it off. Then I'm going to wipe it onto either a paper towel or my tan paper that's over here on the side. Then I'm going to simply block in this pear with a very light white. It doesn't have to be solid, and you don't have to waste a lot of time worrying about it being perfect. We just need a nice base to work on top of to where we don't have this line of lightness and darkness peeking through our painting. We can let little things peek through, so it doesn't have to be solid. Be very careful not to get white on your background, because we've worked hard on this background and we don't want to get white in the background. So I'm taking my time on the edges, but on the inside, I'm just going to kind of whip around here. Then we need to decide where we want our highlight to be. Where's the light coming and hitting our pear? And you can look at a real pear or you can look at some examples, but we want to have a high contrast compared to our background. And so if this is my dark side of my background, to have a high contrast, I want this to be the light side. So right here, where it's darker on my background, I want to have a highlight hitting right here. And then I want it to start to get darker right here where it starts to turn yellow. And then around here, we want it to be nice and dark, that it's contrasting against that highlight. So it does not have to be just green. It can be many colors. It doesn't have to be just one color. You can see that I have neutralized reds. So I have some red peeking through here. I have some purples that are peeking through here. And this is kind of more of a neutralized blue where I've made a purple, which is red and blue. And then I've put a little bit of yellow in there, which is going to neutralize it. It's going to turn it a little brownish or a little greenish. So there can be lots of different greens, but to make a highlight believable, it can't be white all around it. It can't be really bright. So we need some dull colors around the highlight so that the highlight really pops through. But you can see some of the colors that are in the background here, these bright, bright greens that are also peeking through. So what I've decided to do is to create something that's kind of like this, just blocked in some greens. And then I'm going to paint some reds in there and some bright blues to have some interesting colors in there, like this one. And then I'll work on having the edges get darker. There's 2 different ways to create a pear. You could make it very smooth and shiny, which looks more realistic. However, I think that's less painterly. That's something I could take a photograph of and create, but you can't create something that looks like this. In paint, if it's very thick and it's very textured and you have a lot of brush strokes and a lot of different colors peeking through, it actually comes up off the page and looks more three-dimensional and more believable, I suppose, more interesting than if it was completely smooth. We'll look at the shadow as well and different colors that you can use in the shadow. I used red in this one And I'm not completely happy with it, but it does play with the background. With this one, I kind of played with some purples and for the shadows and some other colors. So once we have our white down, if you are ready to start on the highlight side, we're simply going to take some yellows and we're going to kind of peek those in different places over here on the darkest side. And these are going to wind up peeking through in the end. But it's really, we're going to wind up covering this up. So it's really just going to be the first layer of these yellows. And then we want to create a very light, creamy green. And to create green, you use blue and yellow. However, blue is so much stronger than yellow. So it does not take much yellow at all. I mean, much blue at all. So I don't want to ruin all of my yellow and ruin all of my blue. So I'm going to pick up a decent amount of yellow over here. And I'm not going to ruin all that. And then I'm going to take just the smallest amount of blue. And I'm going to actually kind of brush it out there so that I'm leaving most of that blue there. And then I'm going to mix in some of that. And I don't want to completely mix it. You can see that I still have it kind of streaky here. And that's going to create some greens. With this type of pear, I'm not going with just one type of green. I'm going with lots of different greens. And so that's just a start. And I've kind of brushed some of those in. But then I also have some reds. So I'm just going to pick up some straight red, a little white, and I'm going to have some of those kind of peeking in. I am going to have some of them kind of make the motion of the pear here. And we are going to have this highlight here. Okay, I've done a lot of talking, but I want you to go ahead and start getting started, just laying in some bright colors here, some bright greens. And then we're going to actually wind up doling it up towards the end. On this side, you'll just continue to add more and more blues as you get closer to over here, and darker greens. Be very careful not to go outside of the pear. Once again, we don't want to mess up that background. Make sure in the middle there's not just like this straight line. Make sure that the two colors are interacting with each other. Some are moving further this way, some are moving further the other way, but we have some colors that are moving back and forth. Then once I get a few colors down, I'm gonna kind of let that dry. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, don't use a ton of paint. It's not going to take a lot.
You're going to get more of a purple if you mix that much blue into that.
Yeah.
Okay, let me pick up this yellow.
It's too late, you already used too much blue.
Okay, I'm gonna get more yellow. I need to fix this.
No, hold on. Listen. We've got to create small amounts. can't create a ton of paint.
No, not.
So what we want to do is we want to just leave that alone. Brush off what we have. Then we're going to take all of this yellow and just mix it with what you have there. So that makes a nice medium green. Then you have some more turquoise, bluish